I'm back with video 13 dealing with human heredity. Now human heredity is really interesting to me. First of all, scientists use karyotypes to determine what chromosomes you have. Now I actually have my wife's karyotype, so you'll be able to see that tomorrow in class. But a karyotype is basically a picture of your chromosomes, and what scientists do is they take, or doctors for that matter, take a cell in your body, usually a blood cell, and they take a picture of your chromosomes and then they pair them up. And if you'll notice down here on this chart of the karyotype, there are two number ones, two number twos, two number threes, two number fours, two number fives, all the way down until you got two number 22s, two number 21s. Now if you'll notice here, here's an X and here's a Y. Here's the Y and this X. This is actually a boy. Okay, this is actually a boy. But if you counted up all these chromosomes, there's 46 is what we would expect, and there's 23 pairs. 23 times 2 makes 46. Okay, now here's a karyotype of a female with Patois syndrome. She actually has 47 chromosomes. If you'll notice over here, she has 1, 2, 3 number 13 chromosomes. You should only get 2. You should only have one from your mom, one from your dad. Well, this person has 3 number 13 chromosomes, so they end up with 47. Usually if you have too much information, you can survive, but if the person has too little information, let's say they have only 45 chromosomes, usually they don't survive. But if you'll notice, there's still 2 number 1s, still number 2s, all the way down. So they got 3 number 13s, and you can also tell if you look down here at the bottom, she has 2 X chromosomes, so that means she's a female. Alright, the next one here, this is Down syndrome, probably the most classic case. You know, if they were going to ask you a question on the EOC, they would ask you about Down syndrome. You know, this is the one that most people hit on. It's caused by non-disjunction. Remember I talked about that in the last chapter. Non-disjunction, when they don't split properly, anytime you see too many chromosomes. This person has 3 number 21 chromosomes, and it is a girl. So it's a girl with Down syndrome. It's also called, Down syndrome is sometimes called trisomy 21, trisomy men 3, so they have 3 number 21 chromosomes. Alright, now when we look at human chromosomes, just kind of a refresher, a typical human cell has 46 chromosomes, I hope you know that. Now the first 22 pairs of chromosomes are called autosomes, make sure you know that for the test. Okay, the first 22 pairs are called autosomes. The 23rd pair is the sex chromosome. Now if you have an XX, you're a female, XY, you're a male. So this is a good time to go over this. Who determines the sex of a child? Well, if a mama only has an X, she's going to give every child, no matter if it's a boy or a girl, an X. That's all she has to give. The daddy, on the other hand, has an X or Y. So if he gives a Y, it's a boy. If he gives an X, it's a girl. So the daddy determines the sex of the child. So you know the classic story about Henry VIII killing his wives because they didn't give him a boy. They didn't have anything to do with it, actually, if you think about it. Alright, I want to give you a picture of what a chromosome actually looks like. You can see how much bigger the X is than the Y. Since the X is a lot bigger than the Y chromosome, the X contains a little bit more genes than the Y chromosome. And when we talk about sex-linked traits within biology, we'll usually talk about recessive disorders on the X chromosome. So traits that males have a lot of times come from their mom because their mom's the one that gives them the X. Alright, so can you look up here and tell me if this is a boy or a girl? You're going to have to do this on the test, and you will look right down here at the bottom. It has one long one and one short one. That means it's a boy. How many chromosomes do they have? You could go through and count them, but I can look and they've got equal numbers, so they got 46 chromosomes. All right, let's look at these here. Which one, A, B, C, or D? Which one would be a normal? Normal as we can tell by the karyotype anyway. A normal female. Give you a few minutes to look. Hopefully you said normal female. Let's see. Alright, and I know that because I look down here, she's got 2 long chromosomes. That means she has 2 X's and she has 46 chromosomes. Okay. Which one up here is the normal man? Normal is a relative term. I hope you said the normal man or the normal male. was A, and I can tell that because it has one long and one short, which is X and Y, and it has 46 chromosomes. So that leaves B and D. Which one of these has 47 chromosomes? Hope you chose D. D has 47 chromosomes. Is it a boy or a girl? If you look down here, it is a boy. And it's actually a boy with Down syndrome or trisomy 21. So that leaves B. How many chromosomes does B have? B has only 45 chromosomes. If you notice, they only have one sex chromosome. This is actually a girl with Turner syndrome, and we would write her carry as XO. Like this boy is XY, this one is XX, this one is XY. She would be XO because she has only one X. Now, Turner syndrome female is one of those rare occasions where you have too few chromosomes, but you still make it and you're alive. Turner syndrome female would not. She would never go through a menstruation cycle. She would be infertile. She's usually flat-chested. That doesn't mean every flat-chested girl has Turners, but she's normally flat-chested, and she doesn't develop all the female characteristics. It's because she doesn't have any ovaries, because she has only one X chromosome. But that would be an example of Turner syndrome. All right, now let's go right into pedigrees here. And tomorrow you're going to probably do a pedigree for me in class. But human traits can be studied by pedigrees. Now, I had a girl one time say, asked a question what a pedigree was on the test, and she said it's a type of dog food. Even though that's true, if you put that on the test, it's going to be wrong. A pedigree is actually a graphic representation of a family tree. And in a pedigree, males are represented by squares and females are represented by circles. Okay? Now, let me go through a few examples. As you can see here, Fred and Norma, they married. That's a man and a woman. They married. They had 2 children. They had Karen. They had Karen, which is a girl, and they had Bob. That's their 2 children. I can tell because when you come here, they branch directly off from Fred and Norma's line. Now, Steve married Karen, and they had 3 children, all girls. Bob married Ann, and they had 2 children. So this gives you kind of an idea of what a Punnett square looks like. I mean, not a Punnett square, a pedigree looks like. Now, this is a pedigree they might give you on the EOC. If you'll notice here, first thing that strikes me is who's affected by this disease that we're talking about, we're tracking. Only the males are affected. If you ever see that on a test or anything, that means it is sex-linked. It means it's found on the X chromosome. It's found on the X chromosome because a boy is XY. If he gets a bad X, then he has it. A girl, on the other hand, has 2 X's. So if they get one bad X, they can cover it up. It's called a carrier, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But this shows you how we can track a disease by use of a pedigree. Now, this one's even more complicated. I can ask you questions like individual 1, what relationship are they to individual 3? Of course, that's daughter and father. What about 1 and 4? 1 and 4, these guys right here. 1 and 4. So if that's his daughter, that's his grandson. So this is great-grandson and great-grandfather. What about 8 and 9? This is mother-in-law and daughter-in-law because she married into the family. But you can see, now this one is not sex-linked trait, and I can tell that because there's some females colored in as well as males. Okay. Now, the last thing I want to cover today is on AB blood types. There's 4, or ABO blood types. There's 4 blood types, A, B, AB, and O. And it basically, if you look at the chart, a person with A blood can be 2 ways. They can either be homozygous, which we would write homozygous like capital IA, capital IA, or they can be heterozygous, capital IA, little I. Now, if you have A blood, you have what's called A antigens on your blood cell. So your body recognizes, if you have A blood, your body recognizes A blood cells as being their own. Now, used to, if you went, like the Civil War, a lot of people died because they gave them wrong blood transfusion. If I have A blood and you give me B blood, then my body will recognize the B blood as being a foreign invader and will attack it and coagulate it, which means make it clot. So it actually could cause death. So nowadays we don't guess anymore, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. If you look up here at the chart, A has A antigens, B has B antigens, AB has both, and O has none. Well, if you're given O blood, no matter what type of blood you have, it doesn't cause your blood to clot because it doesn't have any antigen, your body doesn't recognize it. So if you were to go to the hospital today in an accident and they didn't know what blood type you were, they give you O until they could type your blood because they know that it wouldn't kill you. Once they figured out what you were, they would give you appropriate blood type. But anyway, let's go back to this. B blood, which is next right here. B blood has B antigens, and B blood, homozygous would be capital IB, capital IB. Heterozygous would be capital IB, little I. AB blood has both A and B antigens on it, and there's only one way to get it, to get A from one parent and a B from the other. And O, there's only one way to get it, is to get two little I's from each parent. Now, one last thing. O, since it can give blood to everybody, it is called the universal donor. And AB blood, if you think about it, they can get it from O. They can get it from B because they have B antigens. They can get it from a person with A because they have A antigens. They're called a universal acceptor. So if you have AB blood, you can get it from anybody. But think about this. You can only give it to people that have AB. Because if you give it to a person with A, the B part of it's recognized as foreign. If you give it to a person with B, the A is being recognized as foreign. If you give it to a person with O, O can't get blood from anybody but O because it had antigens on it, recognized to be foreign. So that's the AB blood. Now let's go through a few questions real quick with the AB blood. Question would be, can a person with AB blood and one with B blood have a child with B blood? Now what I would do is I would do a Punnett square. But let's look at the genotypes. A person with AB blood would be here. A person with B blood, I don't tell you if it's homozygous or heterozygous, so if I don't tell you, always use the heterozygous individual. And what we would do a 4 square, Punnett square, put one parent on one side, one parent on the other side, and just simply do the Punnett square. So they can have a child with AB, they can have a child with B, they can have another child with B, and then have a child with A. So can they have a child with B? Absolutely. It actually would be 2 out of 4, or 50% of the time, these two parents would have a child with B. Let's do another one. Can a person with B blood and a person with A blood have a child with A blood? Well, B blood, remember if I didn't tell you what it was, used to heterozygous, and a person with A blood used to heterozygous. So let's cross them, do a Punnett square. Alright. Simple 4 square Punnett square. They can have a child with AB. They can have a child with B. They can have a child with O. And they can have a child with A. So can they have a child with A? Absolutely. Right here, which would be 1 out of 4, or 25% chance. Actually, these two parents can have every blood type there is. Alright. Let's do one more. Can a person with O and one with AB have a child with O? Alright, so O blood would be little I, little I. AB would be capital IA, capital IB. I hope you can even look at this and tell. But if we did our Punnett square, alright, put O on one side, AB on the other side, they would have a child with A child with A, child with B, and a child with B. So can they have? Absolutely not. Now, this is a classic kind of question they'll ask you on the EOC, so make sure you remember the blood types. They won't give them to you. All right, so just once again, real quickly, what the blood types were. A, there's 2 ways to have blood type. You can be homozygous, or you can be heterozygous. B, there's 2 ways. Homozygous, heterozygous. AB, there's only 1 way you can get it. And O, there's only 1 way you can get it. You need to remember these. They will not give them to you on the test. Alright guys, I hope this helps. And that's video 14.